began that doctoral study for the education, for the EDD, in school administration at Greeley, University of Northern Colorado. I knew from the beginning that I wanted the degree to be in school administration, but you had to choose a minor field, and I wasn't sure what to do. But then I took one course from Dr. Blanchard, Howard Blanchard, from, he was summer staff only, Director of Guidance and Counseling, at I believe Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It might have been another town, but I think it was Cedar Rapids. Neat man. Popular course. Seems to me like there was 60 or 70 of us in that class. Big classroom, pretty well chock full of students, boys, men, women. Two things hooked me. The first one was what he called the Case of Mary, and it wasn't very far into the class sessions that he gave us this paper called the Case of Mary, and it said, okay, you're the counselor of a high school. You got this student, Mary. Here's her grades. And she had A's and B grades. But he said, tiny high school. I think it was about 10 or 12 graduated as seniors, so, 50 kids in the high school, small town. Showed her IQ as, 85, 90, somewhere along in there. And showed her reading score as low. Not terribly low, but pretty darn low to be going off to college. She's asking you as a counselor, what do you think? I'd like to go to college, but some of the people are telling me that I'm not, up to it, that I'd be wiser not to. What do you think? So you guys, he said, I'm going to give you a few minutes. You can talk to your neighbors around there, but in 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to give you a signal, and you mark on that paper and pass it up the front whether you would or would not recommend that this child go on to college. So that's the way it was. And as the papers were being passed up, he called on 2 or 3 people from one section and 2 or 3 from another section. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Mostly no. Mostly no. Don't think she ought to go. It'll be a waste of her money. It's just be frustrating for her, all those good reasons. Well, he said, I'll tell you what, after he had the papers, this is a real girl. I changed the name, but that transcript of a real girl. And she went on to college. She did spend 5 years to get a bachelor's degree. Didn't carry too heavy a load. But she graduated cum laude. A's, all A's. And he said that's not all. She took a little additional training, and she's been employed in a medical field now quite successfully for several years. Guess college worked out pretty well for her. He was making the point. He said, don't forget that the grades that a kid makes in school, whether it's a small school or a big school, are the best indicator, maybe they're not anymore, but that's what he said then, are the best indicator of probable success in college. It's whether the kid thinks they can do it and will do the work to do it. Well, that was a little exercise, and then he told this story. He said, I've been in Rotary ever since I went there as the Director of Guidance and Counseling, and there's one gentleman there that's past president. He's on the board of directors. He's a big man on Main Street, and he's always knocking at public schools. And we're not doing the kind of job we ought to be doing. We're certainly not doing the kind of job that the schools did when he was a kid. He said, I got tired of that. He said, I had a secretary and an aide go down into the basement archives. He said, the system never throws anything away, and we dug until we found, the grandson was a 4th grader, we found a 4th grade math test taken by Grandpa. We retyped it up, saved his paper, made about 100 copies, picked kids in all the schools, including his grandson. They took the test and they beat him, and particularly his grandson beat him. So he said, boy, I didn't take it down to the club where it might be like rubbing salt in the wound. I invited him up to my office, formal appointment, and we reviewed. Is this your paper? Well, yeah, that is my 4th grade paper. Wow. Well, maybe you'd like to look at this one. This is your grandson's paper taking the same test. So it took him a few minutes to really look at that, a time or two, and think about it. He looked up and said, "Howard, all I can tell you is that apparently I learned a lot of things later that I thought I learned earlier." Incidentally, as I sub-teach, I tell kids and teachers, when I get the chance to talk to them away from the kids, don't believe all this stuff about how poor the schools are today. Hogwash. The kids today are being asked, for instance, in math, we are asking 8th grade children to learn harder algebra than I took in college algebra. How do I know? Because a number of years ago, when I was doing subbing at the junior high level, I subbed in an 8th grade algebra class, and holy cow, they had stuff there that I'd never done, and they're supposed to know it already. And I'm sure it's not just in the field of math. There's so much more science. There's so much more of everything that we're asking kids to master, swallow, regurgitate, pretty much like they have always regurgitated, when maybe that's not the way to go.